MTV has brought the world great shows in the past like Laguna Beach, The Hills, Jersey Shores, MTV Cribs, and the OG reality TV series, The Real World. But at one time, the Music Television Network was all about, well, music, with shows like Club MTV, Headbangers Ball, Yo MTV Raps, and Dial MTV, a call-in video request show. MTV would air their first music video on August 1st, 1981, by The Bugles, a song title that was perfect for what was about to come. That song being Video Killed the Radio Star. Well, let's take a moment and go back to 1981. I want you to think about that time and tell me who was the top 10 music artists at that time. While you're at it, go ahead and comment in the comment section your top 10 music artists of the 80s. How many of those artists in your personal list are minorities? Keep that in mind. Today we're going to discuss the shady beginnings of the 80s music television network, MTV. Cue that intro. I'm back, your boy AT. Before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome, like the video, leave a rad 80s comment, and go ahead and subscribe if you love 80s content. So of course MTV was not the first network that brought music videos to the public. However, they were the first to dedicate their whole network to nothing but music. In 1981, MTV would change the music world by debuting continuous music videos. Predominantly rock that would play all day for a full 24 hours of broadcast airtime. But on this day of 24 hours of music, something else significant had taken place. Let's go through that playlist again. No doubt there were some very great songs from legendary artists like Pat Benatar, Rod Stewart, David Bowie, to name a few. But what's missing? Did you see any funk artists? Any R&B artists? Or more blatant, any popular black artists? There was no Michael Jackson, no Prince, no Whitney Houston, and no Rick James. Well, Rick James would also take notice and be one of the first and most vocal of these artists to complain about the perceived slights towards black artists. And instead of taking heed or listening to his complaints, the media brushed it off, trying to blame James, stating that he was just upset because he didn't have any hits at the time. James felt that other artists of color weren't behind him and would go on to address his heartbreak with the friends in the industry that didn't speak up. But there were others that did take notice and spoke out about the lack of diversity in genre and artist race diversity. The legendary David Bowie sat down to do an interview with one of MTV's early VJs, Mark Goodman, to address the scarce diversity on the network after the success of his hit Let's Dance. Bowie would state, "It occurred to me that having watched MTV over the last few months, I'm just floored by the fact that there are so few black artists featured on it. Why are there practically no black artists on the network? There seem to be a lot of black artists making very good videos that I'm surprised aren't being used on MTV." Well, Goodman's response would be, "We have to try and do what we think not only New York and Los Angeles would appreciate, but also Poughkeepsie or the Midwest." End quote. Not any real sort of response as far as I'm concerned. However, I do recommend you check out this complete interview. You'll get some good insights. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description. It's a really good listen. MTV, however, would respond as a network to the charges of racism, reasoning that black artists aren't really making a lot of videos. This was kind of true, but complaints were still valid because there were black artists that had previous hit records with videos. Record companies at that time just weren't giving the same budgets to black artists to make new videos because they knew MTV wouldn't play such videos. So the record companies, which were known as the Big Six shown here, and their executives should take some blame as well for the disparity. Because of that, I won't and can't completely bash MTV, as they still did many groundbreaking things for TV and the music industry. MTV created some amazing shows throughout the 39 history of the network that would center around black music and the hip-hop genre. They would also employ a lot of minority VJs or video jockeys like J.J. Jackson, who was the first African-American VJ on the network, and would go on to hire others like Downtown Julie Brown, Daisy Fuentes, Bill Bellamy, and Ananda Lewis, to name a few. For such a trend-setting network though, it was just sad to see so many things had to take place in order for more black artists to get play on their network. Well, practically it took some forcing it down their throats to convince MTV that America did want to see these artists. And it all started with a smooth bass line and glowing sidewalks and light poles. Michael Jackson's Billie Jean would top the Billboard 100 chart for 7 weeks before the CBS Records president, Walter Yetnikoff, had to threaten to pull all other CBS videos from the MTV video rotation. So because of that, when Michael Jackson released Thriller with confidence of airplay, he knew he'd be bringing some fire visually after having deep talks with his then friend, Paul McCartney, about the importance of advertising through music videos. So with all the money that was spent on production for this video, it would generally force MTV's hand to play it. The Billie Jean and Thriller video reception paved the way for other black artists' video airplay. Michael Jackson, Prince, and Whitney Houston dominated the pop and R&B charts in the 80s. So of course we got to see some of their videos, with only Prince really fitting the actual MTV mold of what they wanted to portray during the 80s era of hard rock. However, during that same period, another urban art form was commanding the music industry's attention. Hip-hop was taking over America. Films like Beat Street and Crush Groove helped push the popularity of hip-hop through the world, showing this wasn't just a fad, and MTV did take notice, so we should commend them for that. They helped the growth in hip-hop community, along with Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, who hosted a classic Yo MTV Raps, which premiered on August 6, 1988, and aired for 7 years. With the total takeover rap music was having, MTV looked again to set trends and will continue to feed the growth and complete takeover throughout the 90s. But sadly, that wouldn't completely mend the past history, as other race controversies would soon arise. In 2006, the network drew backlash for airing a cartoon that featured black women as dogs, tethered, squatting on all fours, and defecating. Actual dogs, people. We're talking dogs to represent black women. The network's then president, Christina Norman, defended the cartoon, calling it a parody of an appearance on the rapper Snoop Dogg. Yeah, right. Okay. And what made out much more shameful was that Norman, who ran the network from 2006 to 2008, was a woman of color. The network still had a lot to learn of race relation at that point, but I can say they had been making strides to right their past wrongs. For example, on July 22nd, 2015, MTV premiered a documentary titled White People, where Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Jose Antonio Vargas traveled across North America speaking to white millennials about topics like privilege and race relations. This is another great documentary to view for some perspective. Look for the links in the description. So there you have it. Again, MTV has had a lot to be commended for. Truth be told, I actually love MTV and would love for some of their original type of broadcasts to return. And I definitely applaud them for some of their transcending networking shows and their effort to learn more from their mistakes and make better programming. But one thing we shouldn't do is brush this dark period under the table or act as if there wasn't a race issue. I think that would be unfair and frankly offensive to the public's intelligence. So I hope you were entertained and learned something you may not have known while rocking out to constant videos and programs from MTV. What were some of your favorite MTV shows from the network in the 80s? Leave it in the comments. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next video, The Sad Story of Suzanne Summers. And be sure to check out some of our other videos here. See you soon.